welcome to Play 2, Netflix and Chill. How did Play 1 go? What did you choose? I hope you had fun, that like you can mix and match, go in any direction. I mean, I had fun planning them out. I'm hoping you had fun crocheting them. This week, as you can see, we're going in a different direction. If you checked out the blog post and saw the schematic. Last week we had, a rectangle. And this week we have like side panels. It's almost like you have a door. You have a front door and then you have the side windows going on. So yeah, we're going little off course on purpose because we can't have just blocks lined up. No, that's boring. We're not going to do that. So what does Netflix and Chill have to offer this week? Come join me. Come. Okay, let's look down here. All right, so I have the video version of Netflix and Chill. Yours is wider and longer. You have your block. You could have something different down here, something different up here. That's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to build, I have a mini version of it over here. We're going to build off of here. So again, you get a choice. You can have Netflix and Chill on both sides of your Play 1, or you can have one side be one thing and another side be another thing. Again, choices, lots of choices, lots of fun things you can try. But this week we're going to work off of here. So I'm going to turn our work so we can see it a little bit better. What we have going on this week is we have all of these little spike stitches going down our work. And what's nice about these guys is they give just a hint of something going on. They're not hard. We got a whole bunch of single crochets this week. But these little spike stitches spice it up just a little bit. Just gives you something a little extra to pay attention to while you're working. So it's just not single crochets over and over and over again. You have, they almost look like they remind me a little like flying geese or grass tufts going across your work. There's something cute that we get to work on this week. If we took a look at the stitch diagram, it's pretty simple. Let's really focus on the different things symbol wise. We have chains, single crochet, double crochet, then the thing we've been talking about, right? The single crochet spike. That's the excitement. That's the fun this week. Otherwise, we have essentially another rectangle. There's no increasing or decreasing that we have to worry about. And if you look for the majority of this is all single crochets. All these crosses are single crochets with a couple of chain spaces thrown in here and there. And then, of course, the fun whoop when we get the spike stitches, when they swoosh down into the row. But pretty much this is something you got. And it can just be fun. So let me show you how you get started. And then I'm going to let you crochet for a little bit. And then we'll come back together for the spikes, because I think that's the main thing that you guys need. When you get started, what you're going to do is the main thing I want you to make sure you have is when you join your yarn and you crochet across, that stitch count is super important. I need you to make sure at least twice that stitch count is what you have. What's written in the pattern, I need you to have. Because if you have one stitch extra, then your pattern won't work out. And then you won't have enough stitches and it won't make any sense. So I don't want you to have that. But otherwise, in terms of working the edge, we're going to be working double crochets. So you join your yarn to the edge. You'll do the same thing on both sides. But join your yarn to the edge of your work. I'm joining. I have a slip knot on my hook, inserting my hook, pulling up a loop, pulling through that loop on my hook. I made a slip stitch to join. You can join your yarn however you like joining your yarn. That's fine. I'm going to chain 3 and pretend that's a double crochet. And then I'm going to march down here and around each row end, I'm going to put 2 stitches. And that's generally what I'm going to do. Now, for instance, if you miss one, you can't quite see one, count your stitches. Always count your stitches and make sure you have the correct number that you need for the pattern. To work around your stitches, this is up to you. You can work around the post of the stitch. So insert your hook all the way around the stitch to encase it. You can do it that way, or you can work into the stitch. So split that stitch. So if we go to the next row end, so instead of working around that first stack stitch that we have there, you could work in the middle of the stitch. So I'm cutting this stitch, yarning over, I'm doing all double crochets, and I'm cutting this stitch in half. That is your choice. Whatever you would like to do is what makes you happy. I don't care. So again, going around the stitch, you literally insert your hook around the stitch to pull up a loop. You can edge your work that way, or you can split it. You can insert your hook in the middle of the stitch to pull up a loop and do it that way. I would just choose one. You know, don't go back and forth the way I'm doing here. Choose one method that you like. Some people don't like if this like leaves a big hole and they like to cut it in half like these guys are. But choose one method. Go ahead, march all the way along, put all of your double crochets in there, and then I want you to come back and do the second row. Do the third row. Do the fourth row. We're going to join together with the fifth row, because if you look in 2, 3, and 4, look at all of that. It's just single crochets, and setting this up is just chain 1, skip 1, go in the next one. You can do that. And then 3 and 4 just say single crochet in each. Single crochet in each. When you get to the chains, you don't have to single crochet into the chain. You can just go in the space and you'll be fine. But then let's look at 5 together and you're going to be all set. So super quick. All right, go work, then come back and join me. Welcome back, everybody. So edging it wasn't too bad, right? And getting started, not terrible. These are things that you definitely can do, no problem, right? I knew you could. Now, really the only thing I want to talk about is those spike stitches. Remember us looking at the spike stitches? Those are the things that I want to talk about. So join me down here again. All right. You should have by now all of your setup row all done. Then the only excitement is in row 2, which gives you these chain spaces. This is what we're going to focus on and work on. Then 3 and 4 was just single crochets. That's no big deal. Okay, 5 is where the fun happens. This is where you're going to start spiking down into the chain spaces. So let me show you on your work, because what you're going to find, because it happens all the time. Let me get the last one back on the hook. You get to the end here. All right. So it looks like nothing, right? Let's chain 1 and turn. Move the diagram out of our way. It doesn't look like anything, does it? No, it looks like, okay, I can tell that these are a double crochet row because they're a little bit taller, and these just look like singles. Okay, fine, no big deal. You're telling me that there's chain spaces somewhere there. Trust me. It does get better as you go further because you'll be able to see them. But like this row here is going to be the row where you can't Netflix and chill. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that, but you can't. You're going to need to pay a little bit more attention. What you're going to have to do is read your work. I told you you had to learn something here, right? And this is where we're learning. You got to learn something. We're learning it right now, how to read our work. So let's pay super attention to what we're looking at. What we're going to do is we're going to do 2 single crochets. Then we're going to do our first spike. And it's telling me that our first spike is only 1 stitch over. Okay. This is important because when you get going, if you take a look, we'll do our 2 single crochets. Ready? Single crochet, 1, 2 single crochets. All right. Now, if you take a look here, you're going to be going into a space that is just above these double crochets. But this is hard to see. This is not easy to see. They get easier as you go because your eye gets trained to it. But what you're looking for is how I look for them. If you look at your double crochet row, or when you're above, you'll be looking at your single crochet rows. You're going to notice that there's these spaces that have this little horizontal line. Do you see when you're skipping down how there's a horizontal line here? There's a horizontal line here, but these are filled in. That means these above here, those are your chain spaces because you can see the top 2 loops. Is it easy to see right away? No. So you're going to need a little bit of time and patience and care to give yourself that space to find them. But you got this, okay? So let's keep looking. And what we're going to see is there is 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. Now, you know how in your handout we said, oh, maybe you want some stitch markers? Bring them out. You can do this when you're doing your row 2, or you can do them now, however you would like. But if you are struggling, this is what I want you to do. When you are doing your setup, your row 2, you can go ahead and put a stitch marker. It won't get in the way, I promise. At every double crochet that you skipped, or if you're doing row 6, I'll show you this again when we get there, you can put stitch markers in every stitch that you skip. So you have those spaces marked. So it's like, oh, well, now I can see. I will tell you the other way to do it is you can feel it. It's not easy, but you can feel it and rub it until you see the hole. But honestly, I really look for this horizontal bar, okay? Now, what are we doing in those? That's just how to find them. The first one here is only the second stitch over, so that one is always easy for me to find. What we're going to be doing is spike stitches, which is just a fancy word for doing a long single crochet. You're going to insert your hook into the chain space a whole bunch of rows below. So you're going to insert into the space above the skip stitch. I'm going to insert my hook into the space above the skipped stitch. Then from behind, I'm going to yarn over, draw up a really long loop. How long of a loop? Well, this is kind of up to you. You can make them smush together so it kind of smushes the row. I like to bring them up even. Yarn over, pull through those 2. It's just doing a really long single crochet. So in row 5, we just put 1 in that space. For the rest, we're going to put 2 of those in there. You skip the stitch that it covers. So it's going to cover a stitch on your hook. You skip that one. Then you're going to insert your hook into the next single crochet. Just do a single crochet. Now we can use, and I can show you how the stitch markers work. So I don't have to remove it or do anything because I'm going in the hole. I'm not going in that stitch. So to do my next spike stitch, I'm going to go into the hole, from behind, pull up a loop, a long loop on my hook, then yarn over, pull through those 2. Skip the one that it covers, go into the next single crochet. Again, insert into the same one as before, the same chain space, pull up a long loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Skip the stitch behind, go into the next stitch. And that's the rhythm. It will be insert your hook into the chain space a few rows below, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through those 2. Skip the one behind, go into the next single crochet. And we're just going to repeat this all the way across. You know you're doing it right if you have these lines. Can you see the lines on the front, and you'll have lines on the back. You're encasing those 2 rows of single crochets that you did. You're encasing those in these spikes. So let's keep going down the line. And you can trust me or not, it's okay, that you can figure it out without having the stitch markers. But honestly, use the stitch markers. You have them, so use them. My eye has been, looking at this for longer. So when I searched for it, am just looking for those horizontal bars that are not worked. So again, for my eye, I know none of these stitches are going to be the hole, none of these stitches. It's going to be this one right here, because this is where there's a horizontal bar. But don't worry if your eyeball is not seeing that right away. Use the stitch markers. All right, let's continue this. We're almost at the end. We'll continue it across. And again, when you're doing the spike stitch, you could, if you want, I'm going to exaggerate it for you. You can pull it tight if you like the look of it tight. Let me make the next one tight too. You could pull them really tight. See how this one is super tight and this one is loose? Go with the one that you like. They're both correct. You can smush them, or they can be looser. I like seeing the strands a bit more, so I make mine looser, but it is up to you what you like to do, and what tension you want to do. Just try to keep it consistent all the way. They will look fine however you like to do them. Just try to keep your tension consistent on these. And I promise eventually it does get to the point where you're like, okay, my hook is starting to feel it. Because what you'll notice is when you're trying to insert your hook anywhere else, you're going to it may go in easy, but you're going to like pull up strands. So that's not the hole. The hole will be big enough that your hook goes in and out easily without grabbing anything else. It takes a little bit of practice, but that's what you're doing here, right? We're just learning some new fun stitches and trying our hand at them. All right, we're almost to the end. When you get to the end of this row, row 5, there's an extra one hanging out, so you just put one in that one spike in the end. Then we chain, we do 2 single crochets at the end, chain 1. All right, let's take a look. With your row 5 all done, you get this little nice lines all the way across. Beautiful. Let's just look, I won't do too much of 6, but let's just look if you want to use stitch markers while you're doing it instead of waiting. It's up to you. Sometimes having all of these marching along the way can bother you when you're crocheting, or maybe they won't. Let's try it the other way so you can see how you could do it when you're setting up the row. So basically, if we look at this, our row 2 and our row 6, they kind of set this all up. 3 and 4 or 7 and 8, these are just single crochets. That's when you look back at your TV because you're just going single crochet in each, That's easy work. Now, let's talk about our setup. In the beginning of row 6, we are going to put 3 single crochets to get us started. Then we chain 1, put a single crochet in the next single crochet. So that skipped stitch, that's the one you want to mark. But here's the problem, not the problem, but when you're working it, you usually want to just put your marker here. But I find that if you put it here, you're on the back side of your work when you come to do those spikes. So that's not really comfortable. So this is where you're going to need to turn your work and mark the skip stitch so you're set up. It's fine. It just means that These setup rows take a little bit longer if you're doing your stitch markers. It's always 3 single crochets, chain 1 across. Turn your work, and then the one that does not have anything worked into it, mark that. So then these guys will be all marked off for you. It's up to you. Or you can do the whole row. Let's do a few more. And then you can, I like to do the whole row if I am really worried about it. If I'm using a yarn that I really can't see, like if it's a dark color, if it's, I know I'm gonna, be doing it downstairs where the lighting isn't great. This is when I will mark them all off. But for the most part, I don't usually mark mine off. But if you've done the whole row, remember, when you're looking for them, you will see a horizontal line. A horizontal line. That's where the stitches that were skipped. That means that's the chain space. If it was skipped, there's a chain space above. That's where you're going to go in. So I recommend at least for the first one, try it with the stitch markers. It'll make your life easier just because you'll be able to see as you go down where they are. All right, the rest of this is, you got this. It's just repeating more of the spikes and lots of single crochets. So this one you got. When you're done, obviously on our little video swatch, I don't have the whole thing done. You're gonna have more like 4 inches over on your cowl, obviously, because your cowl is much longer than the little video swatch. You're gonna have more inches here. You get to decide if you want to repeat this on this side, or if you want to try a different version on this side. The choice is yours. You get to decide how you want to mix and match these all together. All right, I know you got this. You're going to be great. So go enjoy the rest of play 2. Make sure, please, send us some progress pictures. We want to see them on the Marley's Minions Facebook page because we want to like them and share them and go, look at how beautiful they are. We can't wait to see what you have created, and then I'm going to see you again for play 3. Bye, everybody.